So welcome, and thank you all very much for coming. I know it's been a big night last night, and hopefully you had a lot of fun, but heads are not too sore this morning, because we're really excited to talk about what we did for our product development teams with GenAI and trialing Rovo. My name is Fiona Chalk. I am the Head of Portfolio Strategy and Funding for Vodafone's Digital and IT function within the Lean Portfolio Management team there. So our remit is to really help all our digital and IT people across all our markets, that's over 150,000 people, to find leaner ways of working and deliver value faster with happier people. So we're really excited to share how we found Rovo and its capabilities for our product development teams. But before I do that, I will hand over to Rika to give you a bit of context. Thanks, Rika.
Thank you, Fiona. Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a great evening last evening. I heard it was really cool. I couldn't make it, but I'm okay. I am enjoying today already and super excited to be here. I am Rekha Priyesh. I am from Accenture. I live in Germany, Munich. I work as an Agile Transformation Coach and also Atlassian Advisor. Besides the title, what I do every day is finding innovative or creative solutions with Atlassian ecosystem for our clients. So here we are to share one such experiments with our beloved client Vodafone, what we did. So without further ado, let's dive deep into what we are going to share today. So before going into the experiment itself, I wanted to set a bit of a context. So why everyone is talking about GenAI, what is that? Probably you're also doing something, so what is it to break an ice, right? So we all looked at or heard about GenAI, but imagine how it would be if your business can think at the speed of incredible, or imagine if your teams are able to make decisions really quickly with the data which you have in hand, or imagine how it would be if your business itself can reinvent, or it can find many other business ideas which can be implemented. So all this is a possibility at our reach right now with the GenAI. At least that is what you might all have heard with the promise of GenAI, right? So with that kind of technological innovation, we see how it changes overall market and also how we work and how we act every day. So one such technology innovations come into ripe every 14 years. So that's what I called it, like a Cambrian explosion. It's not that the technology innovated that year, but it existed for some years before it became ripe and accessible for all of our use. So at least I wanted to just highlight the ones in my lifetime. So just to give it a connection, that in 1994, with the boom of the internet, when the commercial traffic was allowed and bans were reduced, we all had access to an ocean of knowledge from anywhere in the world. And in 2008, when we had smartphones in our hands where we were able to browse, it's not that smartphones came into existence then, it was there, but with the smartphones where you were able to browse and access this ocean of knowledge at your fingertips, it changed already the overall market, because you were able to do many things after that. I mean, all the apps came into being, all app companies came into being after that, right? So it's the same thing with GenAI. So since 2 years, it's at the peak where everyone is experimenting and everyone is looking at how we can adopt it into our day-to-day lives. So it's not that GenAI came in like only 2 years ago. So it existed before. Any movie buffs in the audience? Who knows Imitation Games? One of my favorite movie. So that's where I learned, at least, GenAI was initially termed by Alan Turing already when he published a paper, Computer Technology and Intelligence, so in 1950s. So it is not very new. We had AI, it existed in different forms, like diagnostic AI, prescriptive AI, or predictive AI. But what sets GenAI apart is the possibility to augment human intelligence. So all these years, we had tools which we were wanting to use. Like one of my colleagues, Michael, always says, we had tools, we had to take them and do something with them. Now we can delegate things directly, like a virtual person sitting next to us who can do things independently. So this plethora of opportunities opened up with GenAI. It also became incredibly important that for us to think, oh, how it is going to now change my job. As being an agile transformation, you probably, some of you are agile coaches. Any agile coaches in the room? Cool. So you will always hear as well, how the roles are changing in the teams. What are we going to do if we are having some conflicts or challenges? How you are going to address these conflicts with the new roles, or how do you train existing people? So it becomes incredibly important to look at ways of working itself and also how it is getting transformed. So you can ask, okay, all this is there and all we have heard it, so what? Why should I do anything? You might have also seen lots of reports like those, that much of work will get augmented or automated. So it is time that we really embrace it and at least experiment with it. So that is one of the reasons why we internally started experimenting. I mean, you might have seen in the news, Accenture was investing $3 billion to reinvent customers and how we work with our customers with the GenAI. So it is such a big emphasis already to showcase that this technology is here only to grow bigger and make an impact. So we looked at all that emphasis, and then we said, okay, let's do something about it. Internally, we started experimenting. And being Agile coach and also working with Atlassian for so long, the first hands-on thing which I could do is to do something with Jira and Confluence, right? So before Atlassian Intelligence, also we did an experiment to try and connect the OpenAI with our Jira, and then try to already look at how we can enable the possibilities for our clients. And then we got to know in the last Teams announcements, oh, there is Atlassian Intelligence. So last year when I was in Vegas is when it got announced, and then we already saw, oh, wow, how it could change. And as being the partners, we got early access, and this year we started to play around with it. Internally, we saw incredible results. So we did not want it to wait. We wanted to take the technology, embrace it, and see how it will bring our productivity high, our efficiency higher. But beyond all that, with the introduction of any technology, it will also help you to save time. And not only deep dive into our experiment now, we want to leave you with a thought experiment at the end of the session. What will you do with the saved time in hands? But before the ending, I want to now deep dive and hand over to Fiona to share our story.
Thank you. I think you'll see on Atlassian t-shirts, it's impossible alone. And I subscribe to that. So we had a really great alliance between Accenture, Atlassian, and ourselves. Earlier this summer, we were asked by our partners to come and try Rovo. I think we were one of the first, if not the first, organizations to try it with real teams. And we were super excited to do that. In LPM&T, in Lean Portfolio Management, we are all about data. And we really wanted to apply the data that we have, the blockages, and the time to market, time to value data that we have for our existing processes, and see what we could do with that if we supercharged it with Rovo. So completely bought in to joining hands and having a partnership. The vision here is Vodafone has been using, actually, like Rika said in previous slides, we've been using AI for a long time. So we've used AI in our network management systems. We've used GenAI, or predictive AI actually, and now more recently GenAI with our chatbot. We have a Toby chatbot that supports our consumers and also our employees for HR and finance and other such questions. And it's really, really useful to us. Vodafone's really proud to be one of the first organizations to have created a responsible GenAI use framework that aligns with EU regulations. And we are building our GenAI program across the organization to scale up and make sure that we're finding the use cases that we need to help our teams work better. So this was a really neat way of building in a trial at a small sort of stage to build into that wider framework and help supercharge our teams across the whole organization. So being part of the early access program was super helpful. The hands-on evaluation was around being part of lean portfolio management. We're interested in use cases for our product teams and maybe some of the less technical teams that our other IT departments have looked at. There's lots of use cases for DevSecOps. There's lots of better coding, automated testing. But what we felt was missing was a bit at the beginning of the process. So our data shows that we see a lot of the features and a lot of the time spent for features and epics at the beginning of the process. I don't know about you, but us in IT, we continue to get beaten up over the heads by our business partners in our organization, like you're too late. And when you do deliver, you deliver stuff that we're not expecting. And actually the data we have is that 9 times out of 10, it's because it's sat between product and technology teams at the beginning of the process in backlog management. So that's where we thought we would really focus our trial and get a hands-on evaluation, which is why we talked about product development in the title. Before I go on to the outcomes, what we wanted to share was a bit of experience about why it was really successful. We had to do this in 5 weeks to be able to meet the deadlines of having something to say at the We Are Developers conference earlier this summer. So 3 things came out of our review. First one was a tight alignment with our partners in Atlassian and Accenture. What we needed was to set up a set of regular check-in calls and be absolutely honest about our expectations and evaluations of what we wanted out of 5 weeks. It's not long. We had to turn it around. So we were really upfront about what we were able to do and just be really realistic about it. The second thing we looked at was having a really tight scope on what we wanted to do. So we narrowed in, that's why we narrowed in on the backlog management section rather than sort of going out and trying anything in the software development cycle. It did 2 things. It gave us the ability to identify teams that we could work with the data set that we could extract and be able to use in a really tight time scale. The other thing it meant we could do was get a really quick turnaround time from our cybersecurity and IT teams, because we were really specific about the data we could use and how we were going to use it. Lastly, what really helped was having the courage to experiment. Here, I think it's all safe to say none of us are experts, not even Jamil, are experts in GenAI. We are all learning. We're all figuring it out. That was what the keynote this morning was all about. It's like, how does it change the way we do things? So what we were recognizing is we needed to be really honest between Atlassian, who went, hey guys, we've literally only got our hands on it ourselves, and Accenture and ourselves to share that honesty with our product development teams. They were getting some features, and it was very easy for them to assume that we all knew everything, and actually we didn't. So the calls were all about giving them the courage to just ask questions, experiment, be curious, be innovative, because we all need those answers. That's part of the trial outcomes. And what was really nice was the check-in calls stopped being about how do I access my thing, my Jira instance, and how do I type in a response? It got really philosophical. It got much more debate about the ways it could be used, how it might try and change the product development roles, the agile delivery roles. And that was something that was really useful to build qualitative insight out of the proof of concept. So the first phase of our trial was the 5-week bit, getting us something to say on stage at We Are Developers. As I say, we got a really quick timescale to prove the use case because we were really focused, and the technical setup was a matter of days. So it takes about 5 minutes to spin up a cloud Jira instance. It took a couple of days to get our users access and to download the data onto the instance in a way that was anonymized so we could do it. That gave us enough time to trial and test the data set with Rovo in order to get the outcomes. We gave our users as much time as they could to really just play with it. One of the nice things about it was we only needed to give them a 20-minute call to train them. Like, here you go, here's how you do it, off you pop, go forth and experiment. And that also generated a lot of excitement. So as an outcome of the first phase, we got a couple of insights, which I'll share later, but it gave us the ability to go, do you know what? We had a limited data set, but we had enough outcome and enough proof of concept insights to say, we want to do a second phase in order to come here today and tell you a bit more about what we did there. So therefore, we took a deeper set of data to really push the boundaries of what we could do with Rovo and also scale it. So we had a few features and a few epics that we tried it with. We scaled it to see if the outcomes that we saw initially with a few of things was scalable. And that was really neat too. So the specific use cases we had were around 2 main areas. So one was a portfolio that had recently launched. That was our corporate IT services portfolio. So this is a team or a cross-functional set of teams that support our HR and finance and office IT systems. So we have to run mission-critical teams and platforms there. And what they wanted to do with setting it up as a portfolio is take lots of disparate project docs, lots of disparate demands, documentation, and turn it into a standard way of defining their work in the form of epics. So there was a big backlog of turning all this stuff into something that was aligned and could be compared and therefore prioritized, and also, more importantly, attached to our strategic objectives. The second use case that we looked at was with a consumer app program. So we have a program called One App, and basically that's where we are creating one app for our consumers that is offered across multiple markets, replacing the legacy individual market apps that were there. So clearly that had a massive and complex backlog of features because we have to combine multiple market demands as well as dependencies and factor in technical debt to replace legacy stuff with a better user experience overall. So we thought those were 2 really neat use cases that we could try. So before I go on to the actual outcomes, I'd like to give Riker the ability to demo exactly how we did it. So you'll see our screenshots.
So yesterday and day before, when I was talking to many of the people and talked about Atlassian Intelligence, some of them asked, yeah, we have seen Teams demo, and we have seen also Atlassian marketing material. Does it really work exactly as the demo shows? Because it is still made in a controlled environment. So we wanted to show you as well videos of real demo or real instance which we used. So I can give you a confirmation they very much look as they showed. So they were not just selling. So this is a demo of a portfolio epic refinement. It's quite quick and asks the portfolio epic definition, and it gives you the definition. And you might have sat down in portfolio epic creation meetings. They go really long, and most of the discussions we have are around what exactly are the business benefits. We do not come into an agreement quite quickly. The portfolio epic creation meetings or business benefit meetings sometimes run for 3 hours long. And here we have the Rovo chat, where we asked for creation of the epic as well as the business benefits. And there we had it in a minute, the results. At least there is something which you can take it into this meeting than starting from scratch, from writing down first sentence, because already there will be someone who is telling you, no, stop, I don't agree with that one, so let's rewrite it. You're already doing several discussions in between, so at least if you have something, you will refine and you will have much more meaningful conversations. So it was as simple as that. First time we just specified, I'm just showing this one because you don't have to write every time, please write the portfolio epic in this template. It's just the first time, if you give the template like that, that's what you want to follow. Next time you go into the chat and then just say, write the portfolio epic. It already learned what format it has to give you result in. So next time when it is providing your portfolio epic, it comes up with the same template, like what we have defined, like who is our customer, what is the unique value proposition, etc. And once you give the command, then you have the results in seconds, so you at least have something to work on, and then you can refine it before you put it into the ticket. And also the business benefits. These business benefits, I was exclusively asking for the portfolio team. One of the Epic owners, she was saying that they are really good, at least 70 to 80% meaningful. I mean, not that, okay, I don't have to do any work. I, of course, have to refine it, but they are much better. Like, if you have this much documentation, I can facilitate the team discussion much better than everyone stopping me in between. And when I asked her to try it herself, she's like, I'm a little bit scared. This is all new things which come up, and then we have to do a lot of things. I mean, you heard what Fiona said. It's corporate IT services area that they really have to handle a lot of mission-critical products internally. They have incredible pressure. For this POC, when we initially started the discussion, no one had time. But as soon as they tried it out first, they wanted to try more, because now she does not have to sit and write the epic for 2 hours or so. She at least has the first version in minutes, and then she can use the time to do other communications. So we just showed them, use the existing prompts. So just ask these questions, you will learn, and then you can ask some different thing. Just interact like how you chat with anybody else. Like if you have used ChatGPT, or if you have not used it, there are people who have not used it still, so still we had to do regular enablements. So these enablement meetings which we used to have were quite helpful, because we used to leave the call open and then ask like, okay, please join whenever you can, and they join and ask questions. So they had the continuous hand-holding for a few weeks, and afterwards they became creative in the commands which they were writing, and also started complaining, Rovo does not work as you said. I said, yes, it is coming up, it is coming up. Also give Atlassian team some time to really evolve it, So it also happened already with these discussions. But with this use case, it already helped, like the whole backlog was prepared in really not even half the time what they used to take before. So there will be more numbers, which Fiona will explain later. I want to show you another use case, which is the most beloved use case from one app team. As you heard, this app team actually is building this consumer app for 3 markets, and they are also, again, constantly under release pressure. So they said, no, we don't have time for even half-an-hour calls. But then we said, okay, fine, you join this 20-minute session, and they saw what is possible, and they started to become a little bit curious. When we told them they can break down their features and stories very quickly with click of a button. And that's where the Atlassian Intelligence work breakdown really helped. It works as simple as that. You go to your story or go to your feature and just click add a child issue, and you will see the suggest subtask button. This is not a demo video from Teams. It is a video from our team who did this in real time. And you will get so many suggestions, including a brief description. If you want, again, you can use inline editor Atlassian Intelligence to add acceptance criteria or whatever, and choose whichever are meaningful. You don't have to accept. It will not write directly into your stories. It will ask you or give you a suggestion. Remove what is not meaningful. Just click on accept, and you will have all your stories ready for you to already go into the discussion. This one, we did it with story and subtask. You can do the same thing with feature and stories. And you have at least saved some time, and POs can have real conversations with the clients and customers and understand their challenges, and instead of sitting and then writing a lot of documentation. This was ready, and then you go into grooming meeting, discuss with your development team, and then quickly move into your sprints. So that was kind of a beloved feature, and teams are really loving it. I mean, as Fiona said, we had to use a restricted data set for this proof of concept initially. Now it has been used in a different way, that yes, there is a restricted data set which is used for the demo and what they were trying out. Afterwards, they started to take real user stories, remove the customer references, and then put it into this instance, generate the user stories, and transfer them. So it is still a little bit tedious. So just being fully open and honest, that is how it is working today. But once they move into the cloud, internally have the approvals to move into the production instance, imagine they don't even need to do this transfer. And the results will be much better because the agents will have much more context. So now going into the last one and the favorite ones, you heard all the announcements about many custom agents which is available by default in the Atlassian Intelligence, in the Rovo agent browse area, which was not the case before. When we started, there were only 2, I think, default agents available, just examples, so we did not have already agents which we can try out. But what we had was the early access possibility for us to build custom agents. So we asked the teams, okay, you are actually accessing the chat and then providing these prompts. What is that you find not working, so that we can build a custom agent for you? And initially, one of the RTEs whom we worked with, they wanted to have like an agent who can support them on the sprints, identifying the scope or identifying velocity, etc. We asked the general chat for this question. What is the scope of sprint A, for example? In the general chat, if any of you have also JQL buffs, it wrote a JQL query saying that identify all the issues with the word scope in it. So that was the initial response, and this was not what I was looking for. I wanted to understand what is the scope of this sprint. So we just had to give the inputs into a custom agents, and that's the next video. So we went there into the chat area. If you have not seen where you find the customization possibility, so you go to the browse agents, you can build here your agents. You can take one of the agents and copy it so you have some context, and then you can give more context. And we use the Scrum support agent to give the questions, what is the scope, what is the velocity, and it will now know it has to act as a Scrum Master and focused on that product development team and what is there in their backlog. So it will give you really specific answers. And not only that, it is once you do this with one agent, what our finding was, even the generic chat learns. So now I went back into the chat, and then if I put the same question, I get the correct answer, that scope of the sprint is all these stories or something like that. Then before the JQL showing, I will find the tickets for you which has scope as a word in the description, right? So they are learning faster. They are also developing. So I wouldn't say it's working incredibly, already you have every question on earth can be answered. Every time there will be an answer for sure, but sometimes they are yet to learn. So the experiment also taught us to be a little patient and then try out different commands and teach the agents. So it's not only one agent. Team got so excited, they came up with now like 5 or 6 different requirements where we have to build new agents, which we are doing in this week and coming weeks. So with that, I will hand over to Fiona to share the outcomes.
Thank you. So it's pretty neat, and it not just doesn't work for Vitafleet, it worked for us as well. So first outcome that we got was from our portfolio Epic owners. And here, as Rika says, getting off that blank piece of paper and that first draft was super fast. How many of you have ever tried writing an Epic hypothesis statement? Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? It takes a really long time to do the for, who, what thing. I know, I've done it. So what, as we were saying, is what was taking about an hour of debating the work rather than doing the work was cut down to less than 15 minutes in getting a first definition that the Epic owner felt she was happy enough to define and work with her team to work out whether or not that was going to give the right outcome for the customers and the employees that she was building that Epic for. The second thing she tried was, as Rika showed, feature definition. So she said, can I have a set of suggested features? And what came back proactively, which would have taken her an hour, again, to build in a way that was unified and consolidated and harmonized for the way we were defining delivery everywhere else, was a set of 10 features with descriptions and acceptance criteria that really helped her work out how she was going to plan those features with her teams. So it gave the team a lot more confidence in how they were going to commit to features and value, and a lot more concrete commitment to whether or not they were going to be predictable. The other thing she tried, as Rika said, was asking for leading indicators for the Epic. Now, with the data set that we gave that instance, it returned a limited response. But what we could see is that with phase 2, because we added more data, that actually the reply was better. And she could use at least as a first instance, the leading indicators that were suggested by Rovo and tweak them and agree them with her colleagues. For product owners in one app, again, I think it was Jamil mentioned that you can consider to save like 45 minutes a week. And we think that's probably conservative, because the product owners found that where they were taking about 15 minutes to create a feature with a bit of a description and some acceptance criteria, Rovo helped them to return it in less than 5. That's reducing it to a third of the time it takes. And we're talking hundreds of features for our one app program. It just is mind-boggling, the type of time that our product owners can really save. The next thing they were doing, and again it saves time, is asking Rovo for the user stories. And again, what takes about 15 minutes, and we baselined this data. So we timed it first, and then found that it took, again, about a third of the time, less than 5 minutes. Kind of sometimes with some of the simpler features, the time it takes to type, it returns you a decent enough answer, which again gave them the time to work with their squads and their scrum teams to really refine how they were going to plan their next sprints. And it was just, I don't know, it was just so magic to see the passion and the excitement that the teams had when they started really figuring out the capability of Rovo. The next thing they tried was identifying dependencies and seeing whether Rovo could help with that. With hundreds of features and oodles of user stories, that's a really tough ask when you're trying to do it manually. Rovo can return a decent response rate, again, in minutes, and it's something that you can really then give to the Scrum Masters and help them work out where their dependencies are between the teams. We have multiple markets. We've got coders in Egypt. We've got testers in India. And all of those people have to work together. And finding the dependencies in the time it was taking for Rovo to give it to us was amazing. Scrum Masters also really liked it. So what they found out of the phase and the proof of concept was they really liked the dependency. They first tried to look at Scrum and Sprint information, and that's what drove the team to create that Rovo Sprint agent, because the first return rate was it didn't really give a good ability to size and scope, like which user stories would go in which sprints, which is what the Scrum Masters really wanted. But in the second phase, that started to come through, and they could see how it would really help them build a really confident backlog for each of the sprints across the PI, and therefore have a better commitment to PI yield and predictability. So the Scrum Master was really, really excited about that. The other element that they looked at was backlog health. So asked Rovo to review the user stories and features and figure out which ones were good enough quality and which ones needed a bit more work. So what would have taken a good half day to go through hundreds of backlog and hundreds of user stories and features meant that they had a neat summary that was returned in about 5-10 minutes that then they could go and proactively work. I know that Jamil was talking about yesterday in his keynote that Rovo agents can help find and learn and act, people to find, learn and act on information. Now, we had a very limited data set to give in our proof of concept, so even without the supercharging of the find the information, because we didn't give it to Rovo, they had really decent and supercharged outcome in terms of learning what the limitations were, learning what the backlog health was, and being able to act on it. And it is just so powerful. So we're really keen to build it into our wider GenAI program. I don't know if you've seen, but we announced a deal with Google this week to work with them on their GenAI capabilities with the Pixel phones and really supercharge that element. But this will really help us feed into our product development people's experience and our ability to really help our agile delivery leads to deliver faster value with happier people. We saw faster feedback loops. Undoubtedly, it's a limited scope. We've done one portfolio and one program, and maybe we can't extrapolate it across the whole program and portfolio and organization. But it's significant enough to feed that into the program and prioritize this use case over some others. It augmented cognitive capability. The unquantifiable element of this proof of concept was the enthusiasm and the engagement from the teams. It gave them a sense of empowerment. It gave them a sense of curiosity and passion to try and find it more, and also get them into the flow state of being able to do the work, not debate the work. It was very, very powerful. So with value delivered faster and with happier people, we're left thinking about what we will do if our good work leads to more free time. And we'd like to ask you to think about what you would do. We are all going to live with GenAI if we're not already living with it now. What will you do when your good work leads to more free time? What will you do with it? So the thought experiment we'd like to invite you to think about is, what if a person's value in society is not measured by the amount of work they do? What if it's measured by the value that they provide and the output and the productivity, so that that smart work that they do enables them to use that time for other things? Wouldn't it be nice if we were able to use the time to enhance our work-life balance in really meaningful ways and maybe help societal challenges across the world? For example, we have an aging population, and that's a problem across the globe. I have aging parents, and they live 2 hours away. I know they're going to need my help in the future, and I would love to think that I could use my productive time to help them as well as being a productive person in Vodafone. How about keeping ourselves, fit mentally and physically so that we're easing pressure off our healthcare systems for those people who actually need it more? I don't know about the European healthcare system, but the NHS in the UK is kind of creaking a bit, and we need to help it where there is too much of an overload on it. I'd love to think, and I have kids, that I could use some spare time to help in the community, help their homework, help them, cheer them on the side of their teams. And God forgive me, I would love some GenAI to help me with my school admin, the parents' evenings, the school trips, the lunch, all that jazz. That would be really nice as well. And finally, Riker and I had a lot of fun. If you haven't done it, go to the Atlassian Foundation booth, helping charitable organizations and spending time there. It would be really lovely if we could create and use the time that GenAI gives us to create a richer, more inclusive society so that we can help be innovative, learn that skill, do that hobby you thought you never would be able to, because we can be more creative people and then bring that back into work. So that's the thought experiment, and we'll thank you to think about it. Any questions? And if we run out of time here, we do have a brain date at 3 o'clock this afternoon. But thank you very much.